An unarmed 18-year-old black male en route to his grandmother's house in Ferguson, Missouri, was shot several times and killed by Officer Darren Wilson just last month on August 9th. Although he fired at Brown while the young man had his hands up, Wilson has yet to be charged with a crime or even arrested. Instead, he has been put on paid administrative leave. The killing of young Brown has spurred social unrest all over the United States and across the globe, prompting political revolution in the forms of economic disruption through impeding shoppers from entering stores and inflicting property damage on businesses that exploit the surrounding communities. Almost 4 weeks after Mike Brown's death, the battle is far from over. The people of Washington, D.C. made that very clear when hundreds gathered at the Columbus Fountain in front of Union Station on the evening of Saturday, August 30th. The purpose? To demand justice for Michael Brown and other young American black men that have been killed by police when they posed no imminent threat. Families, students, organizers, activists, and everyday people were equipped with signs, banners, and an unyielding thirst for justice. Community leader Eugene Puryear, a candidate for the at-large seat in the D.C. Council with the D.C. Statehood Green Party, spoke of the relentless fight for justice and the need for an end to police brutality against black men and women in America.
A lot of people don't like to hear that because the tale that many like to tell is that it's just a few bad apples. It's just a couple here and there, and definitely they don't want you to think it's in the major cities. A couple just here and there that do these brutal things. But all we got to do is look at what the research from the Malcolm X grassroots movement showed us, is that every 28 hours, a black person is killed by a police officer, a security guard, or a vigilante like George Zimmerman. Every 28 hours. And if that is the broad every day for so many black people and Latino people and other oppressed people in this nation, that's not a few bad apples. It's not an isolated incident. It's not anything else but an epidemic of police terrorism, of killing, of brutality, of harassment that happens every single day, all day, every day in poor, oppressed black communities. It's the everyday reality. And if we don't move to end that now, we're not going to be able to say that Mike Brown died for anything other than the frivolous hatred of that officer who thought to shoot him down. And if we want it to mean more than that, tonight can't be the end. Ferguson today can't be the end. We cannot stop. We cannot stop. We must continue. We must keep pressing forward. So we're going to have some speakers here, and then we're going to march down H Street. And just like we shut down Chinatown, we're going to shut down H Street. And 3 weeks in a row, two of the most major and important commercial corridors in D.C. would have been shut down, not by the police, not by a presidential motorcade, but by the power of the people who are out to say justice for Mike Brown.
He also introduced the demands of the marchers. 1, a community citizen inspection board with the power to fire unlawful or unjust police officers. 2, the demilitarization of the United States Police Departments. And 3, the arrest and prosecution of Officer Darren Wilson. Several other community leaders participated. Kimon Freeman, the owner of We Act radio station in Southeast DC.
All right, some of y'all heard this before, but it bears repeating. Many moons ago, a young white man walks into a movie theater. He murders 12 people, shoots about 50, 60 more, exit the movie theater at night into a parking lot, but somehow the police are able to apprehend him without firing a single shot. But yet, we have dozens of cases of unarmed and innocent black men who are murdered in broad daylight. So that should eradicate any concern about he had weed in the system, he stole some cigarettes, whatever. He didn't murder 12 people. He didn't shoot 50, 60 more. So what possible justification other than white privilege can you possibly give to me to justify the disparity in those apprehensions and that state execution? All right? So let's kick that out the window right there. All right? We want to debunk these myths. We know the playbook. They criminalize the victim. They heroize and worship the murderer. Because until the lions have the historians, the tales of the hunt will continue to glorify the hunter, and dead men tell no tales. So we here to tell the lion side of the story. That's right. Let's debunk another one. Well, black people kill black people all the time. Why y'all ain't saying nothing about that? Well, let's say this. When black people kill black people, there's nobody saying, you know, he was innocent. Oh, we can't arrest him. He's in protective custody. Let's do a GoFundMe campaign and raise $500,000 for him. Ain't none of that going on. The police are more than happy when there are two victims, because one's going to jail and the other one's gone. All right? That's the difference. No one's defending black on black violence. What we're talking about is the system defending murderers. Okay. That's what we're talking about. That's the difference. So don't let them take you all around the mulberry bush. Okay. Because the lions are not only speaking, they are roaring. I have never in my life, since the rebellions, and I said it, rebellions, after the injustice over the Rodney King verdict, have I ever seen young black people fighting back. I haven't seen it. And that is the difference here. They're not holding hands. They don't want to hear from Jesse Jackson. They ain't giving money to Al Sharpton. They are picking up tear gas canisters thrown at them and tossing it back at the police with the explicit details of how to handle such instances and cases by our good brothers in Palestine. Okay. They have now educated ghetto youth. This is what they have done. They are beginning to create the perfect storm for something to change this decadent, racist, exploitative, and violent domestic terrorizing system that has been built on the backs of black and brown people since we got here. What we are really talking about in the fundamental analysis is white supremacy. That's what it all boils down to. A 9-year-old girl can get an Uzi and kill her instructor, and all kinds of justifications for that. But you leave your kid in the car for 5 minutes to go in the gas station and pay for it, they will lock your gas up. Difference in policing. And I think white people, some of our white brothers and sisters, the privileged ones, we're not mistaking the lumpen proletariats that are with us. They have a different opinion of the police. They might not be racist, but their white privilege have given them different experiences with the police. They've never been slammed down on the ground. They never had their nuts squeezed up. They never had guns to their face. For a traffic stop, they don't have those references. We do, so we must educate them. And let me close with this. Lens Crafters and Salvation Army are two of the organizations that are sponsoring, I don't want to misspeak here, someone correct me, Shield of Hope, Shield of Honor.net, which is one of the funders organizing the GoFundMe, one of the many GoFundMe campaigns for the defense of Officer Killer Wilson. All right, so we need to start thinking about economic components to our actions here. We are here to fight for DC Ferguson hashtag. Please, everyone, use that DC Ferguson hashtag. We at Radio has been broadcasting Ferguson Live, hashtag Ferguson Live, since Friday before last. One of our producers, the father of this child, this is my son, the father of this child, was shot by police in Ferguson with a bling bag, had a bruised clavicle, and was also tear gassed. So this is real, but we wanted to identify what we're fighting for. One, we want a citizen review board that has power to fire police for misconduct in their communities. That's right. That's what we want.
Salima Daffo, vice chairperson of the National Black United Front, stood before the eager crowd to speak of a life that ended too soon and the lack of punishment of the man who took it.
Things that we must take into consideration is that this is a protracted struggle. Right. Even if we don't have another rally next week, the question is, what are we going to do? Right. And as Sister Aisha said, you got to be part of an organization. You got to be part of an organization because the enemy is organized. So what are we doing? That's the question we have to ask ourselves. You have to find an organization that's working towards self-determination. Just don't join any organization. You're just going to sit up there and you're going to have cookouts. We want to get out here and we want to be engaged in doing some kind of liberation work. Even if it's an artistic organization, if it's a musical organization, if it's a political organization or a spiritual organization, you must be engaged in some activity that's going to push our communities forward. So make some noise if you agree with that.
All right.
I see some folks from Empower DC out here. Make some noise from Empower DC. I see some folks from Delta Sigma Theta. Make some noise for Greek sororities and fraternities. But one of the things, that's right, Kimon, we got to understand that this is a protracted struggle. And Eugene is not just a politician, he's an organizer. And he understands that politics is a tactic to use. So we got to be able to put somebody in office so they can sit on the community, the city council. And so when a referendum comes up, we got some power players at the table. Because the enemy has power. Unless we have the power to sit there at the table to negotiate on behalf of the people, then it makes no sense for us to keep coming out here and doing some of these things. And we're not talking about just Mike Brown, and it's bigger than Ferguson. Yes, this is the hottest thing in the streets right now, but this is not just a national issue. It's not just a DC issue. This is an international struggle. The same struggles that's going on right here in DC are going on in Ferguson. It's happening in New York, and it's happening all across the world. Sisters and brothers in Zimbabwe are doing what? They're fighting to take their land back. So we got to put this into perspective, because we know in Washington, D.C. that the entire world is watching. And the question is going to be to our sisters and brothers on the continent. They're going to ask us, well, what are you doing there in Washington, D.C.? This is the citadel. This is the capital of white supremacy and imperialism.
The community leaders participated in the organization and leading of a march from Mount Vernon Square to Chinatown in Northwest DC just the week before. As the sounds of the drum echoed off of buildings and neighborhood children danced in the middle of an intersection, the solidarity and unity of a hurt, angry, and proud people could be seen and felt. I became immersed in the environment and could not help but realize and understand the true reasons behind the protests. As armed white men are apprehended and taken to jail without being harmed, our unarmed brothers are attacked, tased, shot, and killed for simply walking down the street. The black community in the United States of America is expendable. That is the message being perpetuated through the brutalization of and attempts to criminalize the victims of these acts, including the latest to receive media attention, the killing and slandering of Michael Brown.
I'm a longtime community organizer here in the colony of Washington, D.C. I'm here today to not only show my support for this movement to demand justice for Mike Brown, but to also demand justice for all victims of police terrorism. We see that this thing has been going on for many, many years, not only among African people, but they also do it to Latinos, they do it to immigrants, they do it to sex workers, they do it to gay and lesbians, a wide variety of people police terrorize on a daily basis. So this is a way for us to raise our voices and demand that our community organize itself against police brutality and against police terrorism.
And what specific change do you like to see come out of this? You know, after the hashtags have stopped trending, after the pictures aren't being on the internet anymore, flash in your face, all the time, what specific change do you want to see come from this? And how, you said you're a community activist and organizer, how can people get involved with what you're doing?
Well, I think, first of all, we need to look at any change we want to see in the police department and how they terrorize us. We must be organized to fight against them. Secondly, we must also draw the international connections. For example, the tear gas used against our people in Ferguson, Missouri is also used in Gaza against the Palestinians. That same tear gas is made by a company in Pennsylvania. So Israel uses tear gas made in the United States against the people in Palestine and Gaza, while the military and the police use that same tear gas from that same company against our people in Ferguson, Missouri. We must draw those connections and see those connections and organize to expose all these connections for what they really are and crimes against our humanity.
Racist cops! Justice for! Racist cops! Justice for! Racist cops!
Perhaps the most affirming and powerful moment of the march came as the mass reached the end of the 8th Street corridor and continued down Benning Road.
Mike Street! Mike Street! Move streets, my streets. Move streets, my streets.
Move streets,
My streets,
move streets,
my streets.
move streets,
My streets,
move streets,
my streets.
move streets,
My streets,
move streets,
my streets.
move streets,
My streets,
move streets,
my streets.
move streets,
My streets,
move streets,
my streets.
move streets,
My streets,
move streets,
my streets.
move streets,
My streets,
move streets,
my streets.
move streets,
My streets,
move streets.
While the onlookers had only watched from the sidewalks and from inside their blocked cars, those in the Trinidad neighborhood needed no prompting. They came out of their houses and stepped down from their porches to join the movement as though they had been waiting for it. From then on, the mood of the march was visibly changed. The march was truly by the people and for the people. I, along with other protesters, were invigorated with a new zeal to take over the streets and declare that while our brothers, fathers, and sons were being killed every day before our very eyes, there could and would be no business as usual. The chants got louder and the pace faster as the youth led the march, fighting for their own lives and the lives of black men everywhere. In a few years, they could shoot me, one of the youth said in reflection. That's why I have to be out here. That's why everyone has to be out here. The community will gather once more to stand against police brutality and fight for the value of black lives in America this Saturday, September 6, 2014, on U Street at the African American Civil War Memorial at 7 o'clock p.m. It is not clear if there will be marches following this one, but one thing is certain. Until justice is served, black lives are valued, and the people's demands are met, they will not be silent. Kristina Jacobs reporting for the National Black United Front, D.C.
If you got pictures, hashtag DC Ferguson, Twitter, Facebook, all that good stuff. All right, everybody, make some noise.
We can make room for the ambulance. That's a special occasion.
On your Facebook, on your Twitter, on your Instagram, start telling them right now. Pick your 10 people, start telling them right now.